It's all about the broadcast networks this week, really coming out swinging in the new year. Lots of new shows to talk about. And in news, it's reboots galore. Let's talk TV. Hey guys, Dan here. This is Dan Reviews It. Welcome to TV News and Reviews for the week. My first for 2022. I know we're already a little behind, right? It's already a couple weeks into the new year, but there are a ton of shows to talk about, and we're going to get to 6 of the new broadcast network shows, 3 comedies. We haven't had hardly any comedies in the fall. Ghosts, and I guess the Wonder Years are about the only new broadcast nets comedies in the fall, but now we've got American Auto, Abbott Elementary, and Grand Crew, and we also have 2 dramas to tackle, Good Sam and The Cleaning Lady, and then as well a reality type of show, unscripted I guess, in Judge Steve Harvey on ABC. So we're going to talk about all of those, but first we've got the news. Since it's been a couple of weeks since I did a regular TV news and reviews, because the last episode was the best and worst of the year, so we didn't do news. There is a ton of news to get to, so I'm going to sort of split it up in the first couple of videos here of the year. I think the most important stuff to talk about is the reboots, because it's been all over the news. So we're going to tackle the reboots in a second, but I do want to mention a programming note. NBC is going to be airing Betty White, America's Golden Girl, at 10 o'clock on January 31st. Now, last night, as I'm filming this on Tuesday the 18th, yesterday was Betty White's birthday. So last night in theaters, they had this big 2-hour documentary tribute, and I actually had originally planned to go see that, and I didn't. But in any event, this will not be a version of that. This is NBC's own thing, but obviously, she had a great home on NBC with the Golden Girls all those years. So makes sense that they would be the one putting this on. But love that Betty White, so definitely something to check out. But all right, reboots, there are a ton of them to talk about. So we're not going to do any other news. We're going to talk about these 6 or 7 reboots. Many of these shows I have not seen originally. I imagine I will watch the reboot so I could review it for you guys. But most of these I've not actually seen, but one that I have seen at least some of, The Honeymooners. So CBS Studios is developing a new version of The Honeymooners, and it's going to be for CBS. They're not going to farm it out. And to be honest, I can't remember, obviously I'm getting up there, but I was not alive in the 50s. I don't know what network Honeymooners was originally on. It might have been CBS, because they certainly I think have the episodes on Paramount Plus, so that could be an indication. Not always, because Frasier and Cheers are on there too, and they were on NBC. But in any event, it's going to be a female-driven reboot. Of course, we do that now, and it's going to be from executive producer Damon Wayans Jr. and showrunner Lindsay Shockley, who worked on Blackish. And it's going to be centered around a new wife and husband, Ruth and Alex, who are determined to have a marriage where they are true equals in every way. But what happens when a marriage has 2 heads of the households? Are they co-heads, or is there no head at all? And that is the premise of The Honeymooners. I mean, to me, it doesn't really sound like The Honeymooners, unless they make him a bus driver or something. It sounds to me like they just are taking the name. Because, Alice certainly didn't work on the original, although I guess she was sort of the head of a household in the sense that she kept the household. So I don't know. We'll see. Sometimes they just pick up the name of something and tack it on so people watch it, but I don't know. All right, there's a sequel series to Life Goes On that has a pilot commitment at NBC. Now, this one originally aired on ABC, but NBC is picking it up here, and this is described as a sequel to the 4-season drama that ran from 89 to 93. Kelly Martin is going to reprise her role as Becca Thatcher, who is now an accomplished doctor, and it's going to tackle her life with her extended family as she returns to her hometown. Martin and original co-star Chad Lowe are listed among the producers. I did not watch Life Goes On. I was well aware of it. Corky was the main character, the first regular series actor with Down syndrome, and the show kind of was really built around him. Yes, Kelly Martin was part of it, but I think it was mostly built around the relationship with him. Chris Burke was the actor, and his mother was played by Patti LuPone. I don't remember who the father was played by. And sort of their trials and tribulations. But yes, it was all about the whole family. I saw maybe a couple episodes of this, but this aired Sunday nights at 7 on ABC. And for me, Sunday nights at 7 was Parker Lewis on Fox and whatever show they were pairing it with, True Colors, I think one season. And so I didn't really watch the show, but I was certainly aware of it. I remember the theme song as well was Life Goes On. Obla Di Obla Da by the Beatles. All right, so this one was getting a lot of talk on the internet. Degrassi is coming back. There's going to be a revival airing in 2023 on HBO Max. And as well, the streamer has acquired all 14 seasons of the more recent one, Degrassi, The Next Generation. So the first iteration of this show was in 1980. In Canada. I don't know if it ever aired here in the States, but since I guess the late 80s, PBS was airing it, and some cable channels were airing it at some point. I have not seen like literally 1 second of any of the Degrassi shows. I know it's so popular. Somehow it missed me. I mean, I didn't have cable for a lot of the 90s. So if it aired on like, I think at some point it was on Nickelodeon maybe. But in any event, it all has escaped me. And in fact, I got a request last night or the day before on my channel here to do season reviews of all 14 seasons of Degrassi: The Next Generation. I don't think I'm going to get to that. It seems like, I mean, unless there's maybe only like 8 or 10 a season, but I don't think there are. So I think I'll probably pass on that. But I may watch a few episodes just to kind of get acquainted, but these are going to be, of course, all new characters, so it might not matter much. But like its predecessors, the new Degrassi will follow a group of teenagers and school faculty living in the shadow of events that both bind them together and tear them apart. What a write-up on this show. They're going to travel deep in the hearts and homes of diverse, complicated characters struggling to find their new normal, reaching for hope, redemption, and love. So, sounds to me a little bit like it may be taking place in a post-COVID world or a current COVID world, with, the specific new normal quote in there. But I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what's going on with that. Quantum Leap has a pilot order at NBC. This one was talked about as well. The synopsis reads, it's been 30 years since Sam Beckett, played by Scott Bakula, stepped into the Quantum Leap accelerator and vanished. Now a new team has been assembled to restart the project and hopes of understanding the mysteries behind the machine and the man who created it. So that makes me think Scott Bakula will have a part of it. It has not been officially announced that he will. But that to me sounds like he's going to at least have a supporting role in this show. I'm sure he's going to at least exec produce it as well. But of course, Dean Stockwell, who played the other guy, the mentor or whatever, passed away, I think last year or maybe in 2020, but pretty recently. Quantum Leap, here's another one I am very aware of, but didn't watch. Just was not really, when it was out, I was a little too young, I think, to be interested in it. And then, I just never caught it in reruns or whatever. But it's one of the many shows that I have on DVD. I found it for like $30 for the whole series. So I'm like, okay, like sold. But I just have never watched it. I get to some of my DVDs. Many I will go into the grave, never having watched. But Quantum Leap, I know a lot of people that love that show, so that could certainly be one as well. Justified is coming back. Now, we don't have a ton of details on this, but Timothy Olyphant is reprising his role from the FX series, and that ran, I think, 6 years. Another one, I was going to watch Justified because I have this on DVD as well. I was going to watch it, but I decided to check out The Americans instead, which I'm currently going through. So at some point, maybe before the new series goes off, I will check out Justified. I love Timothy Olyphant, big fan of his. Not a huge Western fan though, so I think that's sort of what shied me away from it, but it's always on critics' lists of like, if there's like a top 20 or 25 best of the decade or whatever, it's always on there. So something certainly to check out there. And then finally, this one is I think maybe the most talked about, even over Degrassi. But Tim Allen is reteaming with his Last Man Standing creator and executive producer for a Santa Claus TV show at Disney Plus. It's going to start shooting in March, and of course, this is from the Santa Claus film series, of which I have seen the first and the third. I never saw the second. I've actually seen the first one twice, and the third one I watched because I love Martin Short. I watched that one first, and it was fine. I enjoyed it. And then my buddy Joe showed me the first one, and I was like, okay, I get this. This is a funny movie. Tim Allen's great. I really don't like Tim Allen's TV shows. I think Home Improvement is one of the worst shows that has ever been so popular on television. But his movies, for the most part, are great. I mean, Galaxy Quest, obviously all the Toy Story films, Wild Hogs, I really liked. So I like his movie stuff. But this will bridge the gap, I think, because it's going to be both. Sort of the TV it's going to be based on the movies, but it's going to be a TV show. So it may be a TV show of Tim Allen's I can get behind for once. But it will take place in sort of present day. He is now a 65-year-old, still Santa, and struggling with trying to figure out who his replacement could be because he's slowed down a bit. Also, feels a little regret about raising his children at the North Pole and sort of wishing maybe they had a more normal life. So, be tackling some stuff with that. I don't have an episode count yet for it, and I don't know if it's going to be a mini series or a series that they could possibly have a couple seasons of. Don't know. But of course, he's no stranger to long-running TV. I think Home Improvement and Last Man Standing both ran 9 seasons. So, so he's no stranger to long-running series there. I don't think he'll do this for 9 years, but, maybe we can get 2 or 3 years out of Santa Claus, the TV show. Obviously, people are clamoring for it. So, all right. So that is Reboots. We're going to get into all the other news that I gathered for this week in the next episode. I'm going to try to do these every 5 days or so we can really sink our teeth into both the news and all of the new shows that are out. There's already been like 7 or 8 more since I watched these that have come out. So we'll tackle all of those in due time. But first, let's get to 3 sitcoms that actually aired their premieres in December. But I decided, well, look, they're going to get their regular schedules in 2022, so I'm not going to review them until then. And now I've seen 3 to 4 episodes of each one because they've aired a few and I've been keeping up every week. So the first we're going to talk about is Abbott Elementary. That is the most critically acclaimed one. So I think we'll go there first. This is on ABC, and it is a mockumentary TV show. So it's in the vein of The Office, or even Modern Family, with the sort of standalone talking to the camera moments. But we get that here. And for a couple of years, that was sort of like all the rage after The Office and Modern Family were such big hits. Like the Michael J. Fox show did it for no reason at all. A couple of shows have done it since, but it's been now a few years. Parks and Rec obviously did it as sort of an Office-like spinoff. But it's been a few years. So the trend has sort of died down, and so we can actually sort of appreciate it now. But this is a group of dedicated, passionate teachers and a fairly tone-deaf principal are brought together in a Philadelphia public school where they're determined to help their students succeed in life. It stars Quinta Brunson sort of as the lead here. She plays a new second-grade teacher. I really don't know much about her. She is, an Instagram person and a BuzzFeed person. I don't know much about that world, so I didn't recognize her. But there's a few people in here that I certainly know. Tyler James Williams, who played the young Chris Rock on Everybody Hates Chris. He's here as a sub. Lisa Ann Walter, who's been in a bunch of different comedy shows. She plays a second-grade teacher that's sort of, rough around the edges. And then Cheryl Lee Ralph, who I follow back to the 80s with It's a Living and some of her sitcom work there. But she's done a lot of things over the years, both in movies and television. And she plays Barbara Howard, a grizzled kindergarten teacher who is sort of the mother figure, mother hen of this whole place. And then you have Janelle James as Ava Coleman, the school's quite inept principal. So this, first of all, I love that it takes place in Philadelphia. We've gotten a big swing of shows now that have taken place in Philly over the last 10 or 20 years. Certainly Always Sunny in Philadelphia leads the charge there, but The Office, not in Philly, but in Pennsylvania, close enough proximity in Scranton. And then there's been a couple of dramas in Philly as well. There was the one medical one that I can't think of, but it ran like 3 years or something on ABC. But in any event, they are really leaning into the Philly stuff here, because in the second episode, it starts out with everybody watching a newscast of Jim Gardner, who is a real-life Philly news anchor who's been on the air. He just announced his partial retirement, but he's been on the air for my entire life. I mean, I think it's been over 40 years in Philly, so that's, very rare. But yes, he's been a part of my life. But they're talking about how sexy he is, and this and that. And look, as a Philly person, I appreciated the reference. However, Jim Gardner does not do morning news, so the fact that they were watching him, at the beginning of the school day, all right, well, I can't get behind that. But, that's a minor nitpick. Nobody else is going to notice that. But it's interesting that they do a nice shout-out to the action news team in Philly, but sort of skew it a little bit. But I really like the show. I think it's very funny. And the educators I've talked to about it have all said really positive things, especially ones that work with elementary kids. They're like, oh yeah, this is not a mockumentary. This is real. Like, this is exactly how things are. Kind of like when The Office premiered and people in offices were, office drones were saying, oh yeah, yikes. This is too close to home for me, that kind of thing. I really think that the success of this show is going to sort of stand on that. Okay, let's have a realistic plot. Like in the episode I just watched this week, they were releasing their wish list to the public so they could maybe get more supplies that they need or stuff that the school is not paying for. That's real stuff, but they did their own skewed version of it, and it was funny but still real. And I think this is going to be one of those shows that there's some real touching moments, some very funny moments. The Lisa Ann Walter character, I think, is a bit stock for my taste. She's very sort of, by the numbers, sort of hard-edged, mama kind of thing. So I think I might have to warm to her character a bit. And also there is a will they or won't they already between the Quinta Brunson and the Tyler James Williams characters. I don't know. I think I could maybe do without that for a couple of more episodes. We don't have to launch right into that. I know The Office did it too, and but Cheers sort of took their time a little bit with the Sam and Diane thing. So anyway, but overall, I think this is a very funny show. I look forward to this being successful. ABC usually hangs on pretty tightly for a few seasons to their popular sitcoms, and this seems to be doing pretty well in the ratings and certainly with the critics. So I leave Abbott Elementary for now with a B+. Moving on next to Grand Crew. The next two actually are going to be over on NBC. This fall was the first fall, I think, in NBC history that they did not have a sitcom on the air. But now that we're in the new year, they're just throwing them at us. Kenan is back. We've got these two new ones. I believe right after the Olympics, Young Rock is going to be back. Mr. Mayor is going to be back. So they're really doubling down and tripling down on their comedies now. But Grand Crew, this is a show basically in the vein of, kind of a Friends. But I see it more as a Happy Endings almost, where everybody's sort of the funny, pithy character. And I love Happy Endings, but they were all Chandlers, Friends, I think, was a little more diverse in the characters, but in any event, so this is basically like the urban version of Happy Endings. It's an all-black cast. You've got most of them I don't know. Justin Cunningham, Echo Kellum, Aaron Jennings play some of the leads here, but Nicole Byer I'm familiar with. She hosts some sort of game show, but I've seen her guest on a bunch of different shows. She's been a guest, Not to Tell the Truth, and I've seen her on talk shows. But I think she got her start on the internet. But she is very, very funny. And this is basically, it's sort of, and the other parallel I draw with Happy Endings is, and I guess actually come to think of it, Friends has this too because of Rachel. But the classic sort of, the wedding fell apart sort of scenario. In Happy Endings, it was two of the friends that fell apart. And in Friends, it was not. Here, it's not. But yeah, I didn't even make the Friends connection with that because it's been a while since I've seen the first season. But yeah, I guess they all sort of have that in common, right? This is not very original, I have to say that, but I think it's pretty funny. I've been laughing at the episodes. They've aired 4 so far, and I've watched all 4 of them. And I approve. You know, it's pretty funny stuff. I think these shows definitely live and die by the chemistry. They've got the chemistry here in spades. I will say that they're, I think, taking a little bit too many sort of riffs from these other shows I've mentioned. Like the second episode was all about how the one guy, you know, is having trouble crying and the other guy loves to show his emotions. Of course, they did that twice on Friends, once with the Bruce Willis character, once with Chandler. So we've already kind of been down that road, and we're already in only the second episode. So don't love that. But, you know, it's a lot of dating in the new world kind of thing, new millennium. You know, social media dating, that sort of thing. So that's, you know, sort of a little bit of a new wrinkle. There was a little bit of that in Happy Endings, but, you know, Friends obviously was before all of that. So I think this cast has good chemistry. I think Nicole Byer is hilarious. I think a lot of the guys here are funny as well. And, you know, it is sort of like Friends in the fact that when Friends came out, I only knew Courtney Cox because she had been on Family Ties. I knew Matt LeBlanc a little bit because he was in this failed Fox show that I watched a few episodes of. But everybody else was pretty much new to me. And here it's the same thing. I knew Nicole Byer, but everybody else is new. So I don't have, you know, preconceived notions about how their, you know, acting persona should be or how their characters are. And I like, you know, what I see. I wish it wasn't so stock. And I have to admit, it's not getting great critical reviews. I don't know how the ratings are, but I don't think this one's going to stick around very long. NBC tends to sort of shuffle their, you know, sort of half I don't want to say half-assed because I like it, but, you know, things that are on the bubble for critics, let's say, shows like Abby's that I really liked, that went away. So I won't get too invested here, but I like the show so far. I think this cast is gelling well, and it's got a good comedic sense to it. I give Grand Crew a B. And then up next, I think this one may actually last a little longer because it's called American Auto, but because it's created by Superstore creator Justin Spitzer, and obviously they had a long, healthy run with Superstore, and critics have been comparing it to Superstore or The Office and all of that. So, okay, maybe this will be the next big thing. They're sort of overshadowing Grand Crew with it. I don't know which show I like better, to be honest. But this takes place in Detroit, obviously, with the auto manufacturers, and Payne Motors is what we're looking at here. The company is struggling after a brand new CEO who knows very little about cars, played by Anna Gasteyer, is hired from the pharmaceutical side of things. So she has really no basis in car development. She is from the big pharma. But we have, you know, several people here that we know. John Barinholtz, who was on Superstore. He was a regular there. Harriet Dyer plays the COO, and she's been in one of my favorite shows on Paramount Plus that nobody really talks about, but it's called No Activity. So she was big on that, and she was in the movie Invisible Man, so you may have seen her somewhere. But you know, a lot of guest stars we've had so far as well. But this basically is sort of the story of, okay, this woman's taking over as the boss. She is inept. Okay, now what does that remind us of? Yes, we go back to The Office with that, Steve Carell. We go back to Superstore with that, with the dude from Kids in the Hall. I can't remember his name right now. So yeah, okay, that's another trope that we're sort of, you know, we've been there, done that with this. But I will say, at least Michael Scott knew about the paper industry, right? He used to be a sales rep. So here we have somebody who is completely new to the industry. So that is a new little wrinkle. And the auto industry is something that I don't really remember being tackled on television, really, in a sitcom. I mean, Taxi, but that wasn't about the auto industry. That was just about a dude who drove a taxi or a, you know, taxi dispatch office. So I will say I think the setting is unique here. Much like Superstore, I mean, you know, everybody goes to Walmart, but we don't have a lot of blue-collar type shows like that take place at work. So, you know, they may be on to a little something else here. Now, this is obviously, you know, more of a white-collar show because it's in a huge office building in a major industry. So it's a little bit of a skew for that. But the humor is the same. And the thing with a lot of these sitcoms is I feel like you just take the people out. You replace them with new people, but the dialogue is exactly the same. You have all of the same archetypes. And we see this a lot. Like I really like Home Economics on ABC, but it's kind of like that show Single Parents that they canceled and then they brought Home Economics on. The jokes are like the same style. Everybody's sort of talking in the same references. And I like those kind of jokes. I like that humor. So I'm kind of on board for all of that stuff. But I do think it's interesting, like, okay, we just basically pluck the same people out, plop them down here, the same writers and the same executive producers and everything, and just give us the same type of show, but out of the mouths of different actors. I don't know. I could take or leave that. I would, would I've liked to see another season of Superstore instead of this? I don't know. Maybe, Superstore certainly wasn't growing old. It was only, I think, 6 seasons in. But in any event, I do like this show. And like Grand Crew, I think it'll be interesting to see where it goes and how the, communication of the actors blend. It's a little different to judge the chemistry here because these people do not know this new CEO, so they're just getting to know her as we are getting to know her. Whereas Grand Crew, everybody's already friends, and it brought us into that world. I'm going to leave American Auto with the same grade. It's a B as well. I really like these two shows, and I would like to see them on longer. I don't know how NBC is going to do it. That they seem to shuffle off their comedies pretty quick these days. I guess the longest running comedy on right now is Mr. Mayor and Keenan, right, from last year in Young Rock. But in any event, it's another B. I like both of these shows. All right, so let's move to CBS now. A drama called Good Sam. This is starring Sophia Bush and Jason Isaacs, and I have to say right off the bat, this one I don't think is going to last long because the ratings are not good. And actually, even from the first and the second episode, they went down significantly. So I think people are not going to stick with this, and I think it will only be probably these original 13 episodes, and that's it. But you know what? Let's talk about it anyway, because you can watch it in the meantime. So heart surgeon Samantha Griffith, played by Sophia Bush, is sort of at the heart of this. She is Good Sam. She becomes the top surgeon at Lakeshore Hospital after her boss / father, Dr. Rob Griffith, played by Jason Isaacs, falls into a coma in the first episode here. And by the end of the episode, he's out of the coma and wants his old job back. So her life sort of turns up and down in short order here a couple of times when he wants to return to surgery, which means to do so, Samantha would have to be supervising him. So I'll say right off the bat, medical shows are a dime a dozen these days. I do watch many of them. I don't watch Grey's Anatomy anymore. I gave up on that 16 years ago. But I watch The Resident. I watch the one on NBC. What is that? New Amsterdam. And I really actually like the premise of this. I think, when you're talking about a new hospital show, a new lawyer show, a new cop show, you have to sort of ask that question. What puts this one aside? What makes this one stand out? And it is certainly that father-daughter dynamic here. And spoiler alert too, which we find out halfway through the first episode, the mom, who is the ex-wife of the other doctor, the Jason Isaacs character, she runs the hospital. So it really is all in the family here for the hospital. Now, would this ever happen in real life? I don't know. I feel like they would kind of shuffle off people to different hospitals if that was the case. But look, I don't know. I'm not in that industry, so maybe it's possible. But in any event, it makes for pretty compelling story writing, and I do like that dynamic. This is certainly what sets it apart from all of the other hospital shows that are on right now. So I like that. And then we get to the negative, which is the cases. Well, it's like a Dr. House kind of thing. Somebody has some. Now, granted, I only watched the first episode, so maybe it's different. But somebody has something that they can't figure out, and then her and him go back and forth on, no, I think it's this, I think it's this. Well, I'm in charge now. Well, I was in charge for 20 years, and here's what I think. That back and forth, and then at the end we figure it out. But I got a real House vibe from that, so that didn't bring anything new to the table. The acting's fine here. I like Sophia Bush. I never watched was that One Tree Hill that she was on? I never really watched that, but I've caught a lot of her TV shows and small movie roles since then. And she's always delightful. She's cute and perky and fun, and she is playing this, more serious character. I've seen her in more comedic things, I feel like, or at least more lighthearted things. Here, this is, pretty heavy hitting, not a lot of humor in this show, but in a doctor show you don't get a lot of that typically, so it's fine. Overall, I like the chemistry here. I love the concept, but the script is very, very by the numbers, harkens back to everything else. But I will leave it with a slight positive grade. I don't think it's going to last very long on CBS. I think the writing's probably on the wall for it already, but I leave Good Sam with a B minus. For a doctor show that's kind of by the book, I love that wrinkle of the family dynamic. I think it definitely does set it apart. So let's go over to Fox next, and they've got The Cleaning Lady. This is a crime show based on an Argentinian show from a few years back, and it stars Elodie Young as Thony De La Rosa, who used to be a doctor in a great hospital in Manila, but she's now trapped in Vegas as an illegal immigrant because her visa expired. So she is sort of caught between a rock and a hard place here. But obviously, brilliant woman. She saves lives. And we see that really in the first scene. She's, kind of catering this party. And the guy is about to die and she saves his life. But now she's got to go on the run because her 5-year-old son Luca is experiencing some medical issues. She needs a lot of money for some medical treatment, and she can't quite make ends meet being a cleaning lady. So instead, they sort of tap her after witnessing a crime and offer her a job both as a cleaner and a cleaner, sort of cleaning up bodies, but also as a doctor within their criminal organization. So yes, you save our lives and you sort of clean up our messes, and hey, we'll take care of your kid. So she's sort of stuck between wanting to do the right thing and wanting a good life and to save her life of the son. Oliver Hudson co-stars here as an FBI agent who really isn't in the first episode very much, but here we go. This is one I was excited about. I don't know what I was watching on Fox that I kept seeing commercials for this, or maybe they just were popping up on Hulu. I think that's what it was. Maybe I was watching some Fox shows, Masked Singer, and a couple of other Fox shows on Hulu, and these commercials kept popping up for The Cleaning Lady. I was like, okay, this seems really cool. Like, let's get into this. No, it turns out to not be very good. First of all, and her acting's okay, but the acting in general from everybody is just not very good, especially the crime bosses. They're so by the numbers, and the ads made me really want to watch this show, and I think even if I wasn't reviewing every show for you guys, I think I probably would have checked this show out, and it just didn't do it for me. I will say, the whole like storyline has kind of been done in a lot of different ways, not so much in the same exact manner, but we've seen sort of the illegal immigrant coming in and sort of trying to make a life for themselves and then getting offered all of these horrible things to do, to stay in the country and to make money and whatever. So we've seen that before in a lot of different things. And so this doesn't really set much apart, except the acting is even kind of a step down from what we usually see, I feel like. But I will say she is pretty good. I don't know if I've seen her in anything. She's probably done mostly, like telenovela stuff. Let's see here. Okay, well, she is part of the Marvel Universe with shows I did not watch, Daredevil and The Defenders. All right, so you actually may recognize her more than me if you're a Marvel person. And she was in Girl with the Dragon Tattoo here. Okay, so I've actually seen her in a couple things. I saw her in The Hitman's Bodyguard, that horrible G.I. Joe Retaliation. So, all right, I've seen her in a few things then. So I can get behind that then. Boy, I didn't make much of an impression though. I as soon as I saw Hitman's Bodyguard, I knew what character she was, but I don't watch the Marvel stuff. So, all right, well, here we go. But she's a French actress, so she's pulling this off very well because the character is certainly not French. So I'll give her that, which is kind of odd now that I'm thinking about it because it's very sort of color conscious and background conscious casting these days, but she pulls it off. I really had no idea she was not from the Philippines, so good on her. But yeah, she's clearly the best part of this show, but I think the script and the other actors around her let her down at every turn. So unfortunately, I leave the cleaning lady with a D+. Not much to see there. All right, next and finally, we have Judge Steve Harvey. Usually we like to end on something light or, a game show or something if we've got that for the week. This week we certainly do. ABC is bringing Steve Harvey into primetime again. They've done it with Celebrity Family Feud. And he says up front in the intro here that he has the voiceover guy says that he's got no, legal training. He is not a lawyer, he's not a judge, he's not anything, he's just an entertainer, and we see that, in every aspect of this courtroom. He does not wear a robe, he wears like a leisure suit, and the whole courtroom is sort of designed in Steve Harvey fashion. It's not that professional, that kind of thing. So he is really taking the approach of a sitcom, but in that vein, the cases are real. The people are real. All the things they say on all the real court shows. And the judgments are final. They have to abide by them. Sometimes you get the money, sometimes you don't. I believe you can get up to 10 grand if you enter Judge Steve's courtroom. And I guess it's kind of like Judge Jerry, the Jerry Springer show. I have not seen that because it does not air in my area. But now he might have some legal training. I mean, he was mayor of Cleveland or someplace in Ohio. So, he may have some kind of background I don't know about, but I thought the same thing when I saw he was getting his own court show. I'm like, well, that guy doesn't have any legal background. But look, they've done this. Quibi had Chrissy Teigen doing Chrissy's court, so we've done this. So look, the reason you're going to tune in for this is Steve Harvey. He is the man to many people. I actually think he is, I think he's okay. I prefer Family Feud hosts that don't sort of mock all the contestants all the time and where every answer isn't penis, on the survey. But look, he obviously made Family Feud his own brand. Now he is, nobody's been more associated with Family Feud since the Richard Dawson days in the 70s and 80s. So, more power to him. People love to watch the feud. And I still do watch his version of the feud, but I wish it was more family oriented and the jokes weren't so sexual or whatever. But here, look, he's doing his patented shtick. He's making fun of the litigant. He's making fun of the defendant. But everybody is, in on the joke. When he makes fun of you, you sort of laugh because you realize, oh yeah, I said something dumb I shouldn't have said, or whatever the case is. He'll make fun of you, you laugh back, whatever. And then the audience uproars, with his jokes. Look, to be honest, this is not the kind of show I'm going to watch, but I thought it was funny. There's just too much out there. I'm not going to sort of waste my time with this, but I think he knows his audience better than most people do, I think. He knows exactly what they want, and he gives it to them in this show. I think it makes sense that it's primetime and not syndicated daily because I think he's doing enough of that. He's got the Steve Harvey Family Feud. I think he's still got his talk show on YouTube or something, or Facebook Watch. I think it's Facebook Watch, where he used to have a daily talk show and they sort of moved it to Facebook Watch. I don't know if that's still in new episodes or not, but he, he still does his radio show every morning, which I'm sure is pre-taped. I don't think he does that live, but in any event, the guy's got his hands in a lot of different jars, so it makes sense that this would not be a daily show, but I think it could have been a daily stripped show and been a success as well. So far in 2021-2022 TV season, I believe it is ABC's highest debut for any show. And that includes, heavy hitters that came out in the fall, like the Wonder Years. But he's getting the job done. Like I said, he knows his audience. And I did get some laughs watching it. I don't hate Steve Harvey. I think it sort of gets old, like the pretending he's shocked by something, that somebody said. And I think it's a little more authentic here, because on The Feud, they sort of curate the questions, so you say penis and whatever, so it's all kind of curated, so he'll give you the look, but here he doesn't know what the people are going to say, so I do think it's a little more authentic in that event. The guy knows his audience, so I'm going to leave Judge Steve Harvey with a B+. I think it's a fun show. If you like court shows, but you feel like they're all kind of the same, this is certainly not the same. he's doing something different, and he's putting his stamp on it. And for that, I got to give him the props for it. So there you go. Does that make that the highest rated? Oh no, Abbott Elementary I gave a B+ to as well. Okay, so a couple of B+ in the mix there. All right, well that will do it. Like I said, there's a ton of shows that have premiered since all of these premiered, but I wanted to knock out the broadcast ones first. There's still a couple more broadcast ones. There's the new Gordon Ramsay show, Next Level Chef, and I think there's one more on maybe NBC. That I will get to. But then there's a lot of streaming and cable stuff that have premiered since as well. So we're going to talk about all of that. We'll hit it. Believe me, we will. So thank you for watching. We'll see everybody next time. Bye.